What's that James jersey behind you?
It's his high school one. I don't want to support any teams he plays for, but I want a LeBron jersey.
And you're repping your We the North?
Yeah. I can't remember. I went to a bunch of the games in the playoffs last year, so I have and regular season ones. I have a crazy amount of Raptors gear.
Yeah, I saw your posts and everything. Must have been pretty fun. I'm not really a fan. I never really followed, but I was obviously happy for them.
Yeah.
But I kept seeing your posts on Facebook and everything, and to be a fan during that must have been a pretty wild ride.
Yeah, especially in the city. Hold on really quick. Are you going to intro or we start like Marin style where we're just going to talk and then you're going to edit later and we're just going to pick up?
I just edit later, and so at the beginning I'll throw your name at the bottom kind of thing, and I'll just put Alex Wood, piece of shit underneath.
Yeah. No anything with shit, Alex Wood. Confirmed piece of shit, Alex Wood. That's great.
Yeah, no, I'm just well, the funny thing is and we can talk about this, is you did your own podcast for a while. I'm kind of late to the party to an extent because I just wasn't interested in it before, and with the pandemic I was like, oh, I want to be prepared if things go down next time. I got a webcam, I got a microphone, I want to be self-sufficient. But maybe you could talk. You went through a whole thing of a podcast, and was it specifically for Alex Wood quits everything?
Yeah, I still do it actively right now. I guess I'm on hiatus to call it. I'm not sure if I'm going to ever do it again, but yeah, it served me pretty well. I mean, I got to interview a bunch of basically my friends. They're all comedians with addiction issues, and we would just I'd interview them, but we'd riff on it. We'd have fun. We'd laugh. So I think a lot of times it's mostly doom and gloom when people talk about addiction, which always because I just quit drinking 5 years ago. And I was like, man, I don't want to be a boring loser sober guy. And then the podcast is kind of just showing it's not that bad. And we laugh about all this crazy shit. And yeah, so that's basically what the podcast is. I just quit something different all the time and talk about it, the experiences.
Yeah, and you quit a ton of stuff, man. And I was super proud of you for the amount of stuff you quit and stuck to, because I can only imagine how hard it is and committing to something like that. And then, but it also brought you a lot of success. And I'm kind of happy I caught you on the back end of it, because during, you would have just been oh, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. You kind of would have been doing your advertising campaign or something. But now that it's finished, and you went through, because you went on a couple shows and did a lot of promoting for it, which must have been nice and really got the word out there. And you're a stand-up comic, and I'm sure you really could have spread the word that way too. So I'm just wondering, did the success fall kind of where you thought it might, or looking back at it, how was the experience? What was it like?
I mean, I kind of
do for you.
I mean, I knew that the podcast had a good elevator pitch. And I mean, podcasts are such a new art form, right? But we've already seen, I would say three different, I don't want to call them eras, because podcasts have only been around for 11 years, but whatever. I don't know what else to say. Early on, the era was everyone's trying to be Marin or Rogan. Every podcast, right, is two guys sitting down, getting to the real shit. The deep dives. It was that was the first year of podcasts. And then the second era is when my podcast did well. And it was the gimmick. Okay, so we watch horror movies and call our ex-girlfriend, and at the end fucking analyzes our phone calls. And if he says we did something healthy, the killer at the end of the movie and we're what the fuck? And so mine was kind of that too, right? I quit something different each month and talk about it, but my elevator pitch was good and not convoluted and made sense to be doing. So yeah, I kind of got in on that. And then now I just think it's more everyone's trying to figure out now it's shifting to video podcasts and Patreon and people at SoundCloud. You don't even need iTunes necessarily anymore. And I think now you're seeing this new era of just it's just a fucking wall of sound, I guess to call it, because there's just so many. So now it's kind of an amalgamation of each one. You know what I mean? I know lots of people now, when they talk about podcasts, the one they reference or tell you to listen to, you've never heard of. Like before was like, you knew every podcast, even if you didn't listen to them. Everyone's like, oh, you got to listen to Making a Murderer. Oh, I know that one. Or that's the Netflix show.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean, but there's so many of those. They're all the same kind of thing.
Yeah,
but there are so many. It is so niche. Like the most popular kind of thing now, I think, is probably Barstool. That's kind of what inspired me a bit. I was like, oh, look at these guys. And at the time, like, to be honest, I was not familiar with them at all before the pandemic, at all whatsoever. And I was just like, look at these guys. Like their equipment shit, their fucking skills are shit. They can't like, but it's people are eating it up. So there's a lot of interesting things about just like content over structure and quality. And I was like, holy shit, these guys are just kind of like a modern day Jackass. Like it's just all over the place. It's just chaos or whatever. But there are so many just niche ones too, you know, like you said, I saw an article or a note that said there's 31 million YouTube channels. 31 million.
I mean, that's I mean, it's not surprising, right? And you know that there's like 14 people taking up like 20% of that probably. I would say, but you called it with the Barstools is people just want the content now. They don't care about you know what I mean? And that's this probably part of this new era of podcasting too, is I remember every article when you start like, oh, you have to professional sound quality. Most people only care about the sound quality. I've never heard one person talk about any podcast and mention the sound, good or bad. You know what I mean? And you've had formal training in it, you know the industry, so you can recognize that Barstool, right, didn't have the highest production values at the beginning, but nobody else could hear that. They all have 10 ears, you know, they don't give a shit.
And it's even like everyone can be a star nowadays. People are happy opening their Twitter or opening their Instagram and seeing a regular person like me and you lip syncing a song that is like a trending at the time or something. And if it's got like a funny tinge to it or something, that amateur person can go viral. You know what I mean? So it's just people, you don't need to be a celebrity anymore to like be famous or be insta famous or something like that, you know?
Yeah, 100%. Well, and I also think too is like you're seeing I mean, obviously it's funny for us, we talk about this, but you're seeing more representation, and that's a good thing. And that's why you're seeing like now like 31 million YouTube channels or everything else, because people are starting to like finally like really get like, oh, there's market value, there's money, because that's all these people fucking care about in art that is not just for straight white males between the ages of 18 and 35. Like that demographic is losing more of its purchasing power and artistic power. And it sucks that I'm one of them trying to take part in it. But as a fan, it's great. It's like, oh my God, it's like, it's never felt like there's this much shit to choose from. It felt like, you know, growing up was like, and I loved it because it was all catered towards me. But then you get older and I'm just like, I don't want to ever watch a movie about another sad white guy trying to get over his girlfriend ever. I'm done. Like that's how many stories can I fucking hear about that?
Well, let me ask you this. How many podcast episodes did you do? Which means how many things did you quit? And can you just kind of name some of the things that you quit?
I just took a big sip of coffee, but I did quit coffee for the podcast. Weed, coffee, red meat, dairy, porn, credit cards, my smartphone, social media, sugar. I always get to 9 and think, did I say gossip? I can't even remember if I said gossip. Yeah, it ended up being 12. It was one a month, and the first season lasted a year. And yeah, I would quit on the first of each month. And it really got to be—
How long?
Like a year. So weed, I quit for the whole year. Everything carried over. So then caffeine was 11 months, and then biting my nails was another one. That was the 10 months, and then 9 months descending order. Cigarettes was on there. And then I had already quit hard drugs and alcohol, and that was like the impetus for the podcast. Was like I was like, wow, I'm actually like sober. I never thought I could do that. So like, and I didn't want to be doing all of these things as much as I was doing them, or at all. Like for instance, I quit cigarettes forever. And then, now I still do the podcast, and the list is more just like, instead of being like, it's static, instead of just being like locked in and in the first of each month. Like right now, I mean, I'm still off booze, hard drugs, cigarettes, Amazon, bottled water. There's a bunch of like other random shit in there now too. But I am on hiatus. I have taken a 2-month break for the summer.
And how do you find like quitting some of that stuff changed your life for the positive? Or I'm guessing a lot of it was positive. Were there any negative?
Negative, yeah. I mean, people, I think like you need to tell that to people before they quit something, or like to addicts in general, so they know it's coming. Yeah, for sure. Like weddings or big parties or things like that at first were brutal tough, but then got very easy once I realized it's not that different. You know what I mean? Like it just felt the same sober. I'm like, I'm dancing, I'm laughing with my friends, we're acting stupid. I was like, okay. And then I got over it. But what I've lost is still with those things and I mean, I don't even feel like I lost anything. Like weddings, I leave at midnight now. I'm like, it's because you've been there since 2 p.m. anyways. Been wearing this uncomfortable fucking clothing, standing, walking around. I'm exhausted by fucking midnight at weddings now. And then I leave. And then I didn't miss anything. I just missed when like, that one groomsman's doing blow in the bathroom, and everyone now is really not fun to talk to because they're like invading your space and shit. Or big parties, like Comedy Bar is the spot every year where like there's a big New Year's Eve party, Christmas party, shit, and all the comedians go. And I go and I have a blast, and I just leave at 12. Like basically I just leave at cocaine time now, any function. And it's not so bad if you're not doing cocaine, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, even I'm not doing cocaine, but even if I'm drinking or pretty drunk, if I'm at like a work party or something, I don't know, I'm like kind of a project manager, I guess you would say, to an extent. So once midnight or whatever kind of rolls around and I'm pretty drunk, I'm like, I need to get out of here. You know, like shit's about to start getting crazy right after this certain like hump here.
Yeah.
I don't want to be around for that shit.
Yeah, it always kind of felt like midnight to 2 a.m. was the start of a different pre-drink. It's like a different
party.
Yeah. Yeah. Which
I used to be part of that party.
Yeah, of course.
When I was younger. But just where I am at this age, what I'm into, I'm fucking fat and tired. I'm full. You've been eating all day. You're like, going home.
Well, I tell people too, I was like, don't you remember, guys, like when we were 22 at the club, ripped on blow, and we'd see a guy who was obviously 34 in a dress shirt, spitting game, buying drinks, and we were like, that guy's the fucking biggest loser in this place. He has more money than all of us. He's like, but he's just so sad. Like, what a fucking loser to be doing rails in the club at 34. And it depends on your job, like, but if you're like a fucking accountant or you work for the government, you're a huge fucking loser in that situation. It's time to grow up. You're not famous. You can accept that and just go home. Like, you know what I mean? So I try to remind people of that now, that because everyone I know that's getting sober is around my age anyways. I was like, the party's supposed to be ending for you right now anyways. Like, this is a good thing. Like, you're not missing anything. This is more youth you're going to miss than anything else. At least that's the way I've always felt. I mean, I know living in Toronto, seeing a guy in his mid-30s out at the club is like, what do you mean? He's the youngest guy here. But to me, it's always been like, no, you switch to pubs and house cocaine and other things when you turn 33.
And that's the mark. Fantasy football, man. That's a nice segue into fantasy football. Fantasy football.
You need tips for this week, huh?
I've already got my pro lines, actually. Well, that was one thing I wanted to ask you about the podcast. Did you quit gambling?
I never really felt like I had a gambling problem. So I didn't. I interviewed a couple people who did. And I've definitely felt I could understand why people had gambling problems before. But I guess for me, it never really made sense. It's so hardwired still in my brain to think of money as something I'm going to use to get fucked up. So gambling was always counterintuitive. Does that make sense? I was like, well, I need this money. Like, I didn't think of money ever in the way that, because when you talk to people who are gambling addicts, they don't care when they lose. They're not doing it to win money. That's a nice benefit of they're doing it for the rush. All of them will say that, the adrenaline, shit like that. So for me, no, I never had to do it because I never got into that rush the same way they did.
Yeah, well, I definitely know what they're talking about because I've had that rush on a $2 ticket that was a long shot only to win $50 that came down to say overtime in a hockey game. And I'm like, no, it's got to go to shootout. My friend's like, you got it. I'm like, no, it's got to go all the way to shootout, not just so. And he's like, you got it. And they scored with like 3 seconds left in the game. I'm like, and that's a $2 ticket, long shot. So imagine people that are betting 3,000, 4,000, or however much addicts are spending per game, you know?
Right. Or like not even just sports gambling, but like casino, like the intensity of craps. It's so immediate with the dice and everything else. And then sports gambling, though, that's the one I could see the most, like you said. Just watching games already when you're invested is like great. And then when you throw in, like, I mean, you mentioned fantasy football, man. I'm screaming at the TV for this. Like, I paid $50 to get in this league. It's mostly about connecting with my old friends from high school. But, like, it's fucking blood sport to me. I drafted Odell Beckham this year. I reached on him. And the very next day, it came out that he likes to get his chest shit on. And everyone was like, oh, and you took Odell. I was like, no, I'm not supporting this toxic masculinity, kink shaming, guys. I'm on board with Odell. I like that he's done this. I named my team the Odell Steamers. I'm leaning into it. I'm so proud of him for being open. He even went on Instagram and made a post that said, like, none of this shit's going to knock me off my spot. Like, obviously shouting out and confirming that he likes it. Good for you, Odell. I hope you fucking win me a trophy this year. I finished in the finals last year. I'm pretty sour about it. And you've been in the finals a bunch of times?
No. The closest, we have the toilet bowl. I've been in that a ton of times. There's the cereal bowl and the toilet bowl.
Nice.
The Cleveland Steamers would be perfect for the toilet bowl. The Odell Steamers.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to make a very graphic photo but it's a thumbnail, so it wouldn't have read anyways.
Yeah, it took people like 2 years to notice my thumbnail. So it's basically, Rappy from the league.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's Homer when he's dropping that bomb and he's got the cowboy hat.
Yeah.
So it's Rappy's head on Homer's body because I just always came in last, so I call myself the Rappy Bombs. Rappy Bomb!
That's good stuff. Did you do the Photoshop work yourself, too?
Yeah, it's just a piece of shit. It's this little photo. And so I was like, oh, the photos are so tiny on here. I just noticed it's Rappy's head on Homer's body.
That's good stuff.
Pretty good names. Someone's got Ryan's football team.
Yeah, that's good. I was Team Orange last year because they just auto gave me that as a name, and I was like, I like it. I was the only professional writer in the group. Everyone else doing their little puns. They're like, what does Team Orange mean? Is this about Trump? And I was like, no, I just really like that it's called Team Orange. I mean, yeah, these are the time. This is the time of the year to make money on the NFL too. This is before the lines get like too crazy.
Yeah, these first couple weeks, I find is the best time to pick your wild cards, your upsets, stuff like that. It's true. And I think the real gamblers love the stuff, how they find that deep information, like that the mob finds out, that the quarterback is troubled or whatever it might be.
Yeah, the old stuff from Casino with De Niro there. He would even know if the point guard got his girlfriend pregnant.
Yeah. Oh, it's crazy, man. Hey, so tell me about, I love what you're doing. I love the life that you're leading in stand-up comedy. it's to me it's a super respectful, honorable lifestyle, because I know how hard and grueling it must be to continuously follow down that rabbit hole and be serious about it. Because so many people are like, oh, I could be funny, I could do this and I could do that and I could do stand up, but like to make it a full-fledged career and even to just become an overnight success, you got to do it for like 10 to 15 years or whatever, right? So how long have you been doing it now?
15 years.
Boom. There you go. Congratulations. All the balloons and everything start.
Yeah.
Whole parade and band starts coming into your room.
Well, it's weird too, because like I started in Ottawa, so like I always feel strange saying that, because like the amount of shows I did in my first 4 years there, like someone in Toronto would get done in their first year here. Like my first 2 years, I did 30 shows. Like you could beat that in your first month in Toronto if you were really, well, not in a pandemic for one, but for two, like friendly and going out a lot and meeting people and shit. So yeah, I mean, but yeah, it has been 15 years of like working very hard at it and shit. And I only able to quit my day job like 6 years ago. So yeah, it takes a minute. And I mean, I haven't, my future is fucked. Just right now is good, but there's no RSPs. There's no fucking, you know, I don't have health insurance and shit like that, because that's just the nature of the job. But yeah, I mean, it's what I've always wanted to do. So that's the trade-off, right?
Yeah. And if you've always wanted to do it and you're passionate about it, it certainly makes the tough times, even though I'm sure because comedy is probably even tougher than film, or tough to the same extent. It's just a really tough business to crack. Got to have thick skin. There's a lot of rejection, a lot of pressure, stuff like that. Like people can be funny, but the pressure of needing to be funny every night on stage takes a lot of like craftsmanship, a lot of work, and a lot of time sitting at home or somewhere alone working on your craft.
Yeah, and it's also too, it's not even just the on stage. It's how many people when they meet you are like, tell me a joke, say something funny. I hate when someone, it's crazy. I'm like, do you understand how this works? Because that is not going to happen. Like if you just want to hang out with me over the next little bit, yeah, we'll probably end up saying something hilarious, but like, don't just fucking like, tell me a joke. I'm like, have you ever watched it? That's not how it works. I'm going to do fucking 5 minutes on the grocery store to your face right now. What are you, dumb?
Yeah, what do we got here? Iraq and yeah, so
exactly. It would be so weird. Like, I just want to launch into my fucking my TV clean six next time someone does that, and then wait till they just walk away. I'm like, yeah, it turns out you didn't want a joke, eh? It's fucking awkward when it's just the two of us.
Where are you going? No, this isn't over.
I'm not your uncle at a barbecue, you know what I mean? It's not, I'm like, all right, fucking 3 Jews just walk into an oven store, right? And I'm like, no, I'm not, that's not how jokes work.
So you are with Yuck Yucks?
Yeah, I'm signed with Yuck Yucks.
How does that work? Like, tell me about it. So like when you were, at what point were you kind of coming up and they were like, hey, we want you to be a part of us?
In Ottawa, I got signed. I was,
so quite early on.
Yeah, like it had 8 years I've been with them now. Yeah, I guess it's like right on 8 years. And I was in Ottawa, I signed there because there's 2 comedy clubs, Absolute and Yuck Yucks, and I worked both. And then, yeah, just at a certain point, Yucks was like, okay, we'll give you like as much work as we can if you work exclusively with us. And that's pretty much what it is being with Yuck Yucks. There's 11 locations across Canada, and they have rules like, you can't do another comedy club within 100 kilometers and some other shit. And then otherwise, and then they give you work in exchange for that exclusivity thing, right?
Have you done work outside the 100-kilometer mark?
Yeah, there's tons of shows you can do that aren't with Yucks because of that. And then they're also very laissez-faire about Toronto, because I think they realized we wouldn't be able to keep track of this anyways. There's just so many shows happening all over the place and stuff. So in Toronto, they're just like, just don't do any of the strictly stand-up comedy clubs. Like they don't even have a problem with Comedy Bar, because Comedy Bar does sketch and improv and stand-up, but they won't let me perform at Absolute because that's a stand-up comedy club.
So is your situation very similar to New York for someone who's really hustling, where they might go perform at 3 different clubs in a night?
I mean, they definitely wouldn't be clubs. Like New York, I've done now, and it's like, holy shit, because they have, right, Caroline's, Gotham, The Stand, the Village Lantern, obviously and they have the 2 fucking works locations. I mean, it's crazy. And then I didn't even mention the best comedy club in the world too, is also there. And Toronto's not like that. You can do 3 shows a night, but definitely not 3 clubs. And when I first got here, it was very big on like I could do like 20 shows a week. And then now, for whatever reason, I think there's less shows springing up. And I think because they bring them to the venues, frankly, instead of like setting up your own bar show, people just go to Comedy Bar directly and are like, can I do a show here? Because Comedy Bar gets out their own audience. So a lot of the producing work's done for you. But yeah, I mean, when I'm really driving, yeah, I can still get on like 10 times a week.
When's the last time you did a show?
Last night in my backyard.
Nice. So tell me about that.
I've been doing shows in my backyard for like 2.5 months now, because like the pandemic hit, and like I was doing them before the clubs were back open and stuff. So yeah, it's been pretty easy. Just advertise on the Facebook group for Bloor West, and then I got a bunch of regulars. Like the show 2 weeks ago had 20 people, and 17 of them had been to more than 3 shows. Like it was crazy. It was like all regulars. I just had to talk to them. I couldn't do any of my jokes or anything about COVID because they'd already all heard it. But yeah, no, so it's been like really fun. And then I would wager I've done comedy as much as anyone in Toronto because I've had these backyard shows. Like I was doing 2 a week while there was like literally nothing else going on.
The set, like what's the set like in the back there? You got lights dangling and seating, or what's it like? Standing room only?
There's no microphone. And then we just have like this, like actually like really cool lamp that I used out of necessity. I didn't even plan it. It looks so nice back there, despite what a trash job I have done maintaining it. It's because it's like a perfect little alcove. There's so many trees in my backyard too that it really feels like you're just like at a comedy club outside, because I've run music before and the lighting's really good. And the seating is, I just tell people bring their own lawn chairs, or I have a few for them too.
So tell me about your experience on the road a bit with the Yuck Yucks, and they have the 11 or whatever different locations. And maybe you can rip off a couple. I'm sure people know there's probably one in Toronto, right? Or outside Toronto or something. And what are some other ones that we might not know about around Canada?
So it's Halifax, Ottawa, Toronto, Burlington, London, Calgary, Edmonton, Vancouver, Abbotsford, which is in BC as well.
So tell me about what are East Coast audiences like compared to kind of Central and West?
I mean, that's a great question. East Coast audiences are the best ones in Canada. They're so like about it right away that they're like US crowds in regards to like on the East Coast, you might deal with a little bit more table talk or even some heckling more than you would in Ontario, but it's easily worth the trade-off of rowdiness for how into the show they get. They don't, a lot of times in Ontario, there's a little bit of like okay, let's see what you've got. And the East Coast are like, this person's going to be funny. I'm here to have a great time. So like, I really like East Coast crowds, like a little bit rowdier, but like a lot of my best sets have been out there. And for a rowdy crowd, once they settle in, you can take them places and you can get quiet on stage if you need to. They're the best ones. And they're also like, I mean, this is obviously not part of my life as much anymore. They like demand you go get fucked up with them afterwards. Like you can't say no. It's like, and East Coast is big on kitchen parties. So like it's very Sault Ste. Marie like actually for that. So yeah, I've been to like tons of house parties after shows on the East Coast, like out to bars. Like I was there for St. Patrick's Day one year. That was fucking messed up. That was crazy. I did not realize the bars open at like 6 a.m. on St. Patrick's Day in Halifax. Like I was like, oh yeah, I come from a big drink town. I was like, no. St. Patrick's Day in Halifax, let me know, like you do not come from a big drink town.
So how long did it take you to kind of get comfortable having silence on stage, comfortable silences on stage, and kind of controlling the audience once you said you kind of put them on your back and take them with you to a certain point and you're riding together? And I've seen all the comics do it, and you can kind of tell who's nervous maybe, or who's like just ripping through, or who's really taking their time to really digest, and you can let it simmer.
Yeah,
That obviously comes after years, but when did you kind of find yours?
Yeah, that's like the best question I've ever been asked about stand-up. Honestly, it's probably like fleeting. That's like asking like an NBA player, like, when did you get like confident in your jumper? And it's like, well, all the time, like very early on, but like my base setting is to be okay with the silence, you know, but it's like last year I was in the finals of Top Comic and SiriusXM's Top Comic. It's like this Canada-wide search, and the winner makes 25. If you win it all, you win $25,000. I went to the finals. There's like 8 of us at JFL 42 at this like theater show. It was at the Queen Elizabeth. So there's like 2,000 people there. And if I have the best set of the night, I win $25,000. I didn't. And, but at the time, all I was saying to myself is, don't rush through that first joke. Go on stage like you do and be okay until you get that first laugh. Because at a nerve-wracking show, it's like doing your first show, and you just want that first laugh. You settle down after you get that first laugh, right? And then you can be okay with the silence. Once I get one huge pop, I'm good with the silence. But until that first huge pop, I'm not exactly comfortable with it. I'm faking that I might be giving that silence, but I'm not there yet until I have it. And there's sets where you're kind of fighting it the whole time, you know, and you're like, oh, I'm not comfortable with the silence once during this set. There's times where it's not going well, that it's your fault, it's their fault. So you're going to be like, punchline. And the next thing I was going to say, like, you're not even giving them time because they've already shown you, oh, we're too rowdy and we'll yell at you if you give us time. We'll talk to each other if you give us time. We're not laughing at your jokes, so why give us time? And also, too, sometimes it's just there. Sometimes you catch crowds that are just smilers. Then you really have to be comfortable with the silence. Like, every comedian can relate to this. They come off after 45 minutes and they're like, fuck, that was mediocre at best. The whole crowd wants to talk to you about how much fun they had. And you're like, where the fuck were you people? They just weren't big laughers. So, like, get comfortable with the silence. Like, initially, I'd say, honestly, that was like 4 or 5 years. It's right before you start headlining, because then you're like, well, I'm going to need to get truly comfortable with the silence.
So obviously everyone has bombed at some point, but like, have you ever lost control up there? Like consider yourself, you're like, I lost to that heckler tonight, or I didn't have it, or I needed to learn to get by that, or have you always kind of... Yeah.
Twice it happened to me. Once was all my fault, even though we got heckled pretty bad. But then the other time was, so the first time it was me and my friend were doing a duo, like the two of us. And we weren't even getting like pro work yet. We were so new. We should not have been doing a duo. Like, I hadn't even performed on the weekend yet. And I was like, you know what? I can try the hardest form of comedy. So we're on stage and it's just not going well. And then this guy yells out, I think all he said was, you guys suck. It was like that generic. But I was like 20. I hadn't started going to therapy yet. I fucking just snapped on him. Snapped, like, instantly. And the best part was, so me and my friend are doing a duo. We're in, like, you want to talk about not yes-anding. Like, we were literally, like, in an act out of being in, like, a downhill skiing. Because we were doing, like, we also were doing a comedy duo trying to do sketches. Like, we really didn't fucking, it was a dumb idea. But, so we're, like, downhill skiing. And my buddy Nick's like, so, Alex, now that we're here on Mount Everest trying to be the first people to ever ski down, what do you think's going to happen next? This guy just goes, you guys suck. And I was like, hey, motherfucker, what are you? Like, just lost it. Like, I was like, you're going to sit there with your fucking pedophile glasses? Like, all the shit I could have said could have been funny, but I was screaming. Like, I was clearly angry, you know? We're like, you
so
just...
What does the club do? How do they handle you in that regard?
I mean, that's going to vary on the situation. They didn't care. Like, I mean, afterwards, it's like, first of all, this was on a Wednesday, and it's 2 amateurs doing a duo, so there's not a lot of pressure. You can bomb all your face, you know. The guy running it just might be like, well, I'm not going to book you again if you do that. You know, I think that night he just told me.
Snapping on the audience is not part of the comedy we do here, pal.
Yeah. Oh, I think that night he just told me, he was like, yeah, don't lose your cool on hecklers. No one's going to be on your side. It was very quick, and I was like, that
lesson learned.
yeah, no one's going to be on your side. And that's the way to say it. Like, they want to be on your side when you get heckled. They're cheering for the comedian.
Yeah.
But they also think it's part of the show. So why are you getting this angry? So, and then another time, I was hosting on my birthday, and I was 30, my 31st birthday, I was hosting in Ottawa. And this guy in the front row tried to start a fight with me 30 seconds into the show. It had nothing to do with me. Like, the show had like just started. All I said was, your headliner, Graham K's in the back of the room. Let him hear it. And before the crowd could even clap, he yelled out, "I'm bored." And I was like, I've been on stage 15 seconds. So then I said to him, I was like, "Sir, that's a world record for fastest heckle. What is?" And then I can't even finish the next thing I say. He goes, "You're a virgin." And I was like, he's in the front row. And I was like, oh, okay, I gave him a chance. So then I let that breathe. And then I was like, oh, okay. So when I said the first thing, it was to find out if you, and now he won't let me talk. He goes, yeah, tell a fucking joke. So now I just shrug, right? And the crowd laughs because I'm just now miming it like, how fucking stupid is this guy? So then I just went, okay, he wants it. And I was just like, he had bushy, huge eyebrows. I was like, sir, the confidence on you to have those eyebrows sitting in the front row heckling, I applauded. The crowd went nuts, right? They already hated him. They went like, that got an applause break. And that's when you know, like, okay, if the applause break shuts him up, it means he wanted to get slammed and he feels okay and it's done. And maybe he'll make a little more noise again later. That night he got slammed and snapped. It's like he started yelling and I was like, bro, you're going to get thrown the fuck out right now. And then he was like, yeah, I'm here with 15 people and it's my fucking birthday, bro. You think I'm going to get thrown out? And I was like, yeah, you are. And then the bouncer came over and told him, if you don't shut the fuck up right now, you're going to get thrown out. This is in real time, Ian, less than 3 minutes into the show. And then
wait, weren't you there for your birthday as well?
Oh, he didn't know that. Like I
know, but so did the guy come over and he's like, all right, you two birthdays better get along. We're going to throw both of you out of here.
Well, that had nothing to do with me. But yeah, no, I told the crowd after, because I mean, obviously the end of the story is then I started doing my act, starting to show, and now he's just talking to his table heckling me. And he's thinking that he's smart, that if he doesn't actually yell out at me, he just says it to his table, he's going to be able to stay the whole show. He's as loud as I'm saying it to you. And he's in the very front row. I was like, so I gave him like another minute. And I was like, okay, Dave, that's the bouncer him. Kick him the fuck out. We tried to give this retard a chance. Like I snapped again. And then he stood up and I was like, please fucking stand up right now. Please get on this fucking stage. A couple of his friends grabbed him. Another of his friends looked like he was walking to the stage. So I literally grabbed the mic like a fucking trident. Like, I'm about to fucking hit this dude in the face with it. And then the bouncers from upstairs, because there's like a club above the comedy club, all came rushing downstairs. And these guys got a lot less tough when they saw like 4 big bouncers there. So then I just railed them as they were getting kicked out. I was like, oh, see you later, you bunch of fucking pussies. Back to your goddamn Orleans hockey party. One of them screamed back, how do you know where we live? And the crowd lost it laughing at that point because I was like, because I know how sad your fucking life is. I just know where you're from because you fucking reek like Orleans, you pieces. Like, just, it's indecipherable screaming and shit. And they got kicked out. They broke the glass door on the way out. It was great. I had fun.
And that's a perfect segue into the volunteer work that you've been doing with the Big Brothers and Little Sisters. And the elderly at the old care home that you've been all the countless hours you've been putting in.
Well, I actually lost that position because this lippy kid really started mouthing off to me. I'm supposed to be his big brother. So I was like, you don't fucking speak to your big brother that way, you piece of shit. And then he's like, I'm going to tell my fucking mom that. And then I just, I thought
the fucking mic stand.
So I grabbed the mic stand that I travel everywhere with, and I'm just ready to plunge this kid to death.
I love that. Oh, dude, that's classic. So tell me I did a little bit of research on you, and what's the Diamond Field Entertainment Agency? How'd you get mixed up with them? And they're your managers, I guess?
Yeah, so like Yucks is like who I'm signed with for Comedy Club, but he represents me as like an actor and a writer as well.
Gotcha. So tell me about, I saw you wrote something for Vice. You wrote an article for Vice, and I noticed that a lot of comedians are doing that. And how does that process work? Do they reach out to you because they kind of have a pulse on the comedians in and around Toronto, or?
No, I reached out to them because friend has written for them a bunch. So I just was like, hey, what's your editor's email?
Is that Jordan Foisey?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was, yeah, from Sault Ste. Marie as well. And then he just gave me his editor's email. I emailed his editor and pitched him the article. I was like, hey, man, I'm doing this podcast. This is what I've quit so far. And they were right away like, yeah, give us like 2,000 words, whatever the hell it was. And then from there.
Do they pay you for something like that? Or is it just more so exposure for yourself?
No, they pay. I mean, it's not great, but I mean, to write, I mean, again, every time you get paid for this, you sort of, it was like being a new stand-up again. And I was like, I can't believe I get $150 for this, which was like, I put in like 10 hours of work on it. It's like, that's not a lot, but it's, you don't care, right? I mean, if somebody told me like, hey, you're going to get $150 for a stand-up gig 5 hours away, I'd be like, go fuck yourself. But for writing, I was like, this is great, you know? And then I'm glad I did it. Cause like, then I got a book deal just from that article. Another comedian I know who like works for an imprint in Vancouver was like, hey man, I read your article. Like, have you ever thought about writing a book? Talk from there. And then, yeah. So like, I'm really glad I did it.
So what's happening with the book? What stage is that at right now?
That's done. Like October 1st is the final deadline. Like right now, I just kind of have to it's like very fine tuning stuff with it now.
What's the book called?
So Chapters Indigo wants me to change the subtitle, which isn't a bad thing because my publishers are saying that's actually really good news. They usually don't fucking say anything. It means they actually are very interested in the book. So, but it's Float Like a Butterfly, Drink Mint Tea is for sure the main title. And then now we're subtitle workshopping. Before it was How I Quit Everything. They didn't like that. So now we have to come up with a better subtitle apparently.
I saw you had a small role. I checked out your IMDb. How much acting stuff do you get or do?
Small role? I haven't booked anything. I don't have an IMDb.
Paranormal? Did you do? You don't? Oh, okay.
Oh, God, I did do Paranormal Survivor. That got me what? Oh,
yeah, see? I auditioned, I think, for one of those a long time ago.
I didn't even have to audition, bro. They just fucking gave it to me. Nobody likes to do those. That's so funny. I'm going to check this out right now. Yeah, so
they're quite awful recreations, aren't they?
My friend, holy shit. That's so funny. Yeah. No,
so what was your role on that?
It was homeowner, I guess. I don't fucking know. Like, so it's, I got this through my background agent to let you know how like silly it is. Anyways, it was, me and my buddy Jamie play a couple that just recently bought a house together, and we think it's haunted, and we're both awful actors, awful. Like my ex, who was very supportive of everything I did, like too supportive, watched the episode with me and was like, I mean, like, Jamie was worse than you. And I was like, oh, shit. I know I did a bad job if this woman, like, that's the nicest thing she can come up with. Like, I would wear, like, a ratty pair of sweatpants. She'd be like, you look fucking hot in those. But, like, she watched this and was like, you're not awful. Like, and I was like, oh, this means I'm really awful.
So tell me about your audition process. Have you gone out for a bunch of auditions or anything? Or yeah?
Oh, yeah.
How do you find that? How do you like the audition thing? Because it's interesting because you're more of a stand-up comedian and you're not so much a traditional actor, right? So you're just bringing in your fun. You're kind of bringing in your funny and yourself and adapting it to a role, right?
Right. Well, I mean, so I've only ever had one like speaking role TV show audition, and it went so bad, I think I'm never getting one again, and it rightfully so. I did my line, and then she did her line. The person reading with me did her line, and then the casting director was like, so can we stop you guys? Which was very early to be stopped. And I was like, oh, this is probably on me. And then they were like, Alex. And I was like, I knew it. And then they were like, so when she said something to you, and there's a long pause, and I was like, what the fuck? They're like, don't just stand there and wait for her to be done talking. Actually react to the things she's saying. And I went, oh, you mean acting? Yeah, okay. I don't know how to do that. Sorry.
I don't know why I'm here.
My biggest problem is when someone else is talking, this is all I do. And then maybe if you'll see me trying to remember my own line, and I'm like, start mouthing their line a little bit before I get it. That's it. I just stare for them. Well, then another thing, and then too animated when it's my turn. It's like not normal at all. But then commercial auditions, a lot of times you're by yourself, so I still get those. And I've been like on hold for like 3 commercials, which sucks because it means you don't book them, but you came very close. Mm-hmm. And they pay well. That's the only reason I want to do them. I'm better at those. Those are a lot more like come in and like, okay, you're buying a new car. You kind of smell something weird, but then you realize you like to smell. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
And then, but like anytime that they want me to talk, it's all improvised. And they just want me to come in and write the commercial for them, which sucks. Mm. They just want you to come in and like, they didn't write a script and they just tell all the comedians in the city, come in and improvise the lines. And then they write down what you say and hire a handsome person to say those things. And you don't get paid for the writing.
Yeah. I love those little kitschy roles that you go in. Like you said, it's just a car thing. You're like, okay, you got this, and you do that, and then you do this, and then you're out of here. It's like, okay, I can work with something like that, you know? I kind of don't mind diving into a bit more of the acting thing, but I can definitely see how that commercial wheelhouse works for comedians. Mm-hmm. And that's why I see a lot of comedians or reoccurring faces in commercials, Canadian commercials.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, something that like surprised, that's how sad Canada is too, is like, I've heard the phrase blowing up referred to people who booked a few commercials. And I'm like, guys, these are supposed to be the bottom of showbiz. Like, you're not supposed to be happy you booked a commercial. Besides the money.
Paying the rent.
Yeah, exactly. Same time. Besides the money, it's like, you should be ashamed. Like, I fucking hate it, man. And I even put on like, it's so funny because I've never booked anything, but I still have like companies I won't do auditions for in my work, and my agent's just like, you're a fucking loser, man. I'm like, I don't care, man. I'm not doing a Walmart commercial.
Yeah, there's certain ones that come through. A quick fleeting thought goes through my mind of like, oh, I don't want to book this. I don't even want to book this. I don't want to go to this or whatever, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
But I treat everyone, it's not like I book a ton, but you got to treat everyone just as a learning experience. That's all I do. It's just like getting comfortable with a bunch of people being around, 60 people being around you and needing to perform, like bringing the heat. That kind of thing is similar to psyching yourself up before to do a comedy show or something like that. So Woodsy, we talked about a ton of shit. We didn't get to a bunch of it, but I do have one thing that I do want to ask you as we close out here. We're going to enter the Gauntlet. So
I gave time in case you had a stinger ready there. Doom, doom, doom.
The stinger is added in post.
Yeah.
The Gauntlet.
I gave you for video effect too.
So buddy, just a couple of questions. You just take them and they become as easy or as hard as you want to answer them. So Alex, where does the time go?
Are you just reading fucking coffee mugs to me? I think it goes nowhere and back to us.
Woo! Was not expecting that. What shape is the sky?
I mean, it's just a rectangle. Don't let the fucking frilliness fool you. That's just a giant rectangle.
Which apocalyptic dystopia is most possible? Zombies, cannibals, like Black Mirror, like advancements in technology, something like the Hunger Games, Mad Max.
Yeah, AI for sure, man. Smart people say that. Yeah, the technology one, AI.
Is that the one that you think that you would thrive in the most?
No, I think the one I would thrive in the most would be Hunger Games. I'd be great at hyping people up for the Hunger Games. Like, I'm very good at convincing people to do bad things, and I think I could convince the world to enjoy a game of sport where teenagers are put to death.
Oh, wow. So you're like the Michael Buffer of Hunger Games.
Yeah, I mean, as long as I get to be, I don't want to be part of the proletariat when I'm doing this. Like, I better have some fucking, like, you know, extra in this, like, dystopian world. Like, I better get, like, 3 servings of my rations. You know what I mean?
Why are we here?
Yeah.
And favorite snack.
Goldfish crackers, and there's nothing. No reason. It's all pain for no reason. And goldfish pizza crackers.
It's like the hardest question. And your favorite snack.
I'm the worst on podcasts too. When somebody asks something like that, I just actually genuinely get lost in the thinking about it. And then I remember I was like, oh, this is bad radio. We got dead air.
And what does the world need most?
Education.
Laughter. Wrong. It's laughter. I like that answer though. That's a good one. Okay, man. Well, this has been great chatting with you. I know you got to get going. And we got some football Sunday on the way. So this was great catching up. Thank you for coming on. Throughout the cast, I'm going to get all your social medias and everything, and they'll be scrolling around the bottom when we're talking about them, zipping by and showing everyone where they can catch up with what you're up to and what you've been up to and all that jazz, and your social medias and all that stuff so they can follow along with you.
Great, man. Thanks a lot, man.
Thanks, dude. And take care of yourself, and just stick around after I sign off here, and we'll just have a quick chat. And everybody, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.